Every nation is drowning in debt, yet the payments are clear. So who owns the claim on tomorrow? Not a king, not a billionaire, a creditor above governments. The truth is, the creditor is a system, silent control wired into money itself. In the next few minutes, you'll decode its blueprint, who gets paid when nobody repays, why repayment is an illusion, and how confidence governs your taxes, your pension, your job. There's a secret step that turns debt into money. There's a mistake that collapses regimes, and there's one indicator that tells you when confidence breaks. Let's pull the thread. If you think debt is the problem, you're already looking in the wrong direction. Debt was the solution, and the moment it worked, power stopped living on thrones and started living on paper. Power moved from throne to ledger. Miss that origin, and you miss the trick. Debt didn't just fund empires, it rewrote capitalism. In 1694, England was at war and out of gold. The crown needed cash. Merchants needed certainty. The deal was stark. Lend today, receive perpetual interest tomorrow, guaranteed by future taxes. To administer this, the Bank of England emerged, not as a mere vault, but as a registry of state promises that could be traded. A bond was born, a portable slice of sovereignty. Here's the mechanism. The state issues bonds, formal IOUs, a signed document acknowledging a debt. Merchants and lenders buy them. Taxes from the population fund the interest. The bond trades in markets, changing hands, gaining a price. Credibility becomes currency. The battlefield became the balance sheet because force costs money, and money obeys credibility. France copied the structure, the Netherlands refined the market, the United States adopted it to finance revolution and later expansion. The pattern hardened. Borrowing equals ruling. A national debt stopped signaling weakness. It signaled access. Access to capital, to war finance, to infrastructure, to time. If you could borrow, you could act now and spread the cost across the future. That's not a waste. That's leverage. Now stop for a second. People assume debt is a hole you climb out of. That was never the design. The design was compounding obligation in exchange for stability and speed. Interest is the rent for stability. Market access is the prize. The bond is the lease on the future. And here's the deeper truth. Bonds made sovereignty divisible. Instead of extracting tribute at sword point, states auctioned slices of tomorrow to fund today. Investors didn't need to conquer. They needed collateral and confidence. The crown didn't need absolute loyalty. It needed steady buyers. You live with the modern echo. Governments spend before earning. Budgets are political theater. Issuance is operational reality. The bond is the state's operating system, compatible with banks, pensions, and global collateral chains. When a government speaks, markets check the tenor and size of issuance. When a crisis hits, they ask who will buy, at what yield, under what terms. Power now prices itself. The mistake to avoid is moralizing the ledger. Debt wasn't built to end. It was built to be rolled, compounded, and used as control. Once you see that, everything else clicks. Borrowing is consent. Collateral is rank. Confidence is law. But the ghost evolves. Control doesn't shout. It circulates. The next move hides inside a closed loop where debt stops being a burden and starts becoming money itself. Once debt became power, it needed a circulatory system. And that system doesn't end with bonds. It loops, quietly, permanently, and it decides who eats when nobody ever repays. If you miss this loop, you miss who your taxes feed and why crises cascade. The thing most people miss is simple. One balance sheet's liability is another's asset. When the state borrows, someone else gains collateral. Here's the shortcut nobody teaches. Treasury issues bonds. Banks, funds, and pensions buy them. Then the central bank steps in and buys from those buyers, creating new money to settle the trade. The liability moves, the asset remains. Interest payments flow back to institutions that hold the bonds, and some of those institutions manage your retirement. Now stop. People say, we owe it to ourselves. That's half true. The flows rise upward. Taxes route interest to the holders of collateral. It's silent control because it looks like neutrality. But the mechanism is not neutral. It ranks claims. The loop scales globally. In the United States, most debt is held domestically by funds, banks, insurers, and the central bank. A foreign slice exists, diversified across allies and rivals. Japan holds a lot. China holds less than the headlines suggest. Europe follows a similar pattern. Japan internalized the loop so intensely that its central bank became the dominant holder. The European Union rebuilt its loop through shared institutions. Different designs, same logic. The promise is secured by another promise. The hot potato never cools. The IMF lends to governments under terms. The World Bank funds development with conditions. Nations stack reserves in other nations' bonds. Sovereign wealth funds rotate promises for yield. Collateral begets collateral. The table is circular. Nobody stands up. So who is the creditor? Not a face, a consensus. Hedge funds, pensions, insurers, sovereign wealth funds, ratings agencies, central banks, the market mind that sets the price of survival. Democracy chooses leaders. The creditor consensus prices their options. The reason this works is confidence. Debt is rolled, not repaid. Refinancing is a rolling subscription. The principal moves forward. Interest is the rent for stability. As long as the rent clears, the loop hums. Look at Japan. Debt to GDP towering. Yields near zero for years. Why? Because those bonds are not just IOUs. They're collateral. Banks use them for funding. Pensions need them for liabilities. The central bank treats them as near money. Investors renew the deal because the system requires the collateral more than it desires repayment. Here's the part that clicks everything into place. If a government paid off all its debt, it would drain collateral from the system. Less collateral means less lending, fewer repo trades, tighter money. Deflation follows destruction, not salvation. The world doesn't want the IOU erased. It wants the coupon to continue. Don't blame a single villain. The system is the creditor. It sits above governments because governments need its confidence to function. That's the illusion of choice. Policy debates narrow to whatever preserves collateral. So now I ask you, what does this mean for you? Your retirement hinges on those bonds holding value. Your mortgage rate mirrors the yield curve. Your job survival ties to credit conditions. The loop isn't out there. It runs under your feet. However, confidence is not evenly distributed. When trust cracks, the bill lands on specific necks. That's when the mask slips. You finally see the creditor. As long as confidence holds, the loop hums quietly. But when it cracks, the system doesn't negotiate. It enforces. When trust breaks, rules harden, choices vanish, austerity bites. The creditor becomes visible because the rent goes up instantly. Here's the crisis blueprint. Yields spike, currency tumbles, ratings agencies pull the grade, collateral gets a haircut in repo markets, capital flees, refinancing turns into ransom, democracy elects leaders, markets decide who survives. Look at the map of recent decades. Greece faced a wall of maturities with no buyers. The European Central Bank and the IMF stepped in. The terms were clear: tax hikes, spending cuts, asset sales, structural reforms. Bonds got honored. Citizens paid with years of unemployment and service cuts. Rescue meant rule setting by creditors. Argentina cycled defaults. Each round tightened the screws. Access to markets vanished. Courts enforced claims. The currency absorbed the punishment. Savings evaporated. Then the loop reset with new paper and new terms. Sri Lanka ran out of foreign currency. Fuel lines stretched. Imports froze. The creditor was no longer an abstraction. It was the supplier that demanded dollars, the bondholder that demanded terms, the rating that forced a funding drought. Flags changed. Mechanisms stayed because the punishment has a cadence. Ratings downgrade you. Repo desks widen haircuts on your bonds. Lenders shorten maturities. A forced issuance meets higher yields. The math compounds. Refinance or break. Pay the rent or lose the roof. The thing most people miss is distribution. We owe it to ourselves. Hides who receives the interest. It flows upward to balance sheets that already own assets. Taxpayers fund it. Workers shoulder it through weaker wages and higher prices when currencies slide. Indebtedness and inequality climb together. Two rails, one train. So how do you read the battlefield fast? Watch for signals. Spiking yields outpacing growth. Credit spreads widening against peers, reserve depletion that forces imports to ration, failed auctions, emergency rate hikes that don't stabilize the currency. These are not headlines. They're heart monitors. Oxygen dropping. Treat sovereign bonds as oxygen. Falling confidence is thinning air. Policy debates, slogans, televised fights, masks for collateral preservation. When oxygen thins, hospitals choose who gets ventilators. States choose which promises survive. Pensions protected, deposits guaranteed, public wages delayed, collateral ranked above citizens. Last month, a student of this model messaged me after a local shock. They didn't guess at narratives. They tracked spreads and reserve burn. They found the break a week before the headline. The win wasn't profit, it was preparation. They protected cash and avoided layoffs by shifting roles early. That's what reading power looks like. Now stop for a second. This isn't about villainizing creditors or sanctifying debtors. It's a mechanism over morality. The blueprint rewards control of collateral and punishes illiquidity. If you remember nothing else, remember this. Confidence is policy. Without it, law bends like wire. So now I ask you, who owns tomorrow? The elected who plead for time, or the creditor you can't vote out? The truth is blunt. The creditor is a loop, a market mind, a set of desks and mandates that can starve your government of oxygen in a week. And here's the deeper truth. You're not powerless. You can read the signals and strip the narrative of its costume. When the mask slips, you'll know which decisions are real and which are theater. Because once you can see the puppet strings, the illusion of choice loses its grip. Once you see how power punishes, the next question is simple. Can it be read in advance? The answer is yes, and it always leaves fingerprints. Power is predictable if you track 5 levers: issuance cadence, central bank balance sheets, collateral quality, fiscal credibility, external dependence. Surging issuance and shorter maturities signal stress. Expanding QE means buyer of last resort. Tightening tests belief. Rising repo haircuts reveal distrust before headlines. Primary balance trends beat speeches. Stable revenue wins. High foreign holdings plus weak reserves equals vulnerability. Set alerts for yields, CDS, and policy moves. Don't chase narratives. Track flow, bonds, basis, balance sheets. The shadow creditor is a loop where debt becomes money and confidence writes the law. If this sharpened your lens, subscribe and watch the next chapter on Credit Dynasties. Turn on notifications.